All right, it looks like I'm alive. I know it'll take a couple of minutes for people to come around, so I'll just talk. I'll edit this out at the beginning of the video because I'm planning on breaking this up. Um, so I'll just talk in general a little bit. If people come in, cool. I'm just going to talk about the gatherings that we host every week. I never do this, and honestly, this going live is an essential part of this process for me because I am terrible at social media. I am truly horrible at doing social media. It's just a struggle to get on and post. It's a struggle to get on at all. But but what got me online today is first, lives are easier for me. Um, Having to like create clips and do short videos, absolutely can't stand it. So I'm hoping that this I get enough material from this, I can break it into small clips for Instagram, for Facebook. But worst case, I have a live. And so I just want to talk about a little bit about our gatherings that we have every week. Um, I don't really do that on social media enough. So I'm going to start with the gathering. It's the Tuesday gathering. We just did our Sunday a little bit earlier today, but I'm going to start with Tuesdays because Tuesdays are really, really, really special. I absolutely love Tuesdays. The challenge with Tuesdays, logistically, is that Tuesdays we have Radiant Minds. It's a meditation group at 11:30 at my office. I'll give the address in a little bit. You can also find it and probably link in the bio to any platform this is streaming. But Radiant Minds is Tuesdays, 11:30 to 12. And then there's optional silent meditation from 12 to 12:20. Radiant Minds is super cool. I'll give a description of it. It's not silent meditation in the sense that we sit and we focus on the breath. It's a beautiful practice. Don't get me wrong. Silent meditation is fantastic. But Tuesdays, Radiant Minds are something entirely different. On Tuesdays, we get together. I facilitate the group. I definitely don't consider myself the leader of the group, but I facilitate the process on Tuesdays. So we start with some silence. And it's probably about a minute or two of silence. Most people are going to close their eyes. They'll probably be seated for the first part of it. Though we're seated on the floor and there's lots of pillows. So anyone is free to lie down. And many people do lie down for meditation. Totally great. But what happens with Radiant Minds is after some silence, just a couple minutes, everyone's going to have their eyes closed. We stay in that meditative space. And then I'll start to give prompts. These are prompts that bring us to an exploration of consciousness. So I'm going to give you an example. I'm going to sit here, I'm going to close my eyes. And this is actually from one of the first Tuesdays we ever did. So while we're in that meditative state, I would give a prompt like, notice the sound of the traffic. And I'm not sure whether this mic picks up the traffic, but we live near Wayne Avenue and I hear traffic. And so I'll give that prompt. Notice the sound of the traffic. And then I'll give a couple of minutes. We'll listen to the sound of the traffic, kind of absorb in that. And then maybe I'll give a prompt like, notice where your consciousness is in relation to the traffic. And I give a little bit more. Maybe I'll make a suggestion like, do you notice that the your consciousness is with the traffic, or do you sense it's in your body in this office and the traffic is over there? There's no right or wrong answer. And so those meditation prompts then open up discussion. But this is not open our eyes, look at each other discussion. In the Tuesday meditation group, Radiant Minds, I'll give those consciousness prompts and then we'll have a roundtable discussion. Now, nobody's required to speak. Some remain silent the whole half hour from 11:30 to 12:30 on Tuesday mornings. They'll stay silent, and that's beautiful. And then usually those people will speak at the end, but most people will kind of give their experience of consciousness. They'll talk about it just very briefly. What's your experience right now? Not what have you read about consciousness, not what have others told you about consciousness, but what is your experience of consciousness. And the amazing thing is, and we sometimes have 6, 7, 8, 9 people there. I think 9 is the most we've had. Every single person's explanation of what the experience of consciousness is to them, it's different. But so let's just say there's 6 people there. All 6 people are going to describe consciousness differently, their experience of consciousness based on the prompt that I give. But if you weave all 6 of those descriptions together, they're not contradictory at all. They're just different takes on consciousness. It's absolutely incredible to watch. I get so excited about Tuesday meditation. It is absolutely amazing. So if you're somebody that is interested in consciousness, if you're somebody who's never meditated and want to learn to meditate, if you're somebody that has 40 years of experience meditating, Tuesdays, Radiant Minds at my office, 11:30 in Kettering, Ohio. That is a phenomenal group to come to. It's 30 minutes, 11:30 to 12. And then from 12, like I said, to 12:20, there's optional silent meditation. But if that's something that sounds interesting to you, I would absolutely love to see you there. So we'll go round table, and in these prompts that I give during that Tuesday meditation group, they build off of each other. So it starts out with one. So in the case that I gave a moment ago, notice the sound and where your consciousness is in relation to that sound. Then I'll give another prompt. As an example, can you move your consciousness, or your sense of consciousness, I should say, to the source of the sound? Can you move it back into your body? Can you move it? And there's no right or wrong answer, like I said. So if that prompt is to notice the sound first, and maybe we discuss that in the group, and then the second prompt is, can you move your consciousness to the source of the sound and then back into your body? There's no right or wrong answer. It's not an exercise that people are expected to fulfill. We do it, and then maybe one person says, oh yeah, absolutely, my consciousness, I'm able to shift it. Wow, that's cool. I've never done that before. Maybe the next person says, I really didn't find that I could move my consciousness. I always felt like I was here in my body. Maybe the next person says, wow, this is new to me. I don't even know if I can describe what I'm experiencing. Everybody's going to have a different experience. And if you're interested in consciousness, it is absolutely cool to see how everyone can relate to everybody else's description, but they're all going to be different. It's absolutely amazing. So that's Tuesdays. And then at noon, on Tuesdays, we just do 20 minutes of silent meditation. I think for a lot of us, we kind of carry the prompt on for the 20 minutes from 12 to 12:20. I know for me, that's typically what I do. So the prompts that I create for these Tuesday meditation groups, they are great for people who are experienced with meditation, or those who have zero experience. You could come to Tuesday meditation, Radiant Minds, 11:30 to 12. You could come with zero meditation experience. And the prompts then can become essentially basic meditation techniques. So you'll learn to meditate, but it's not stuffy. It's not, well, notice your breath or sit silently for an hour. I love meditation like that. Don't get me wrong. But Tuesdays, Radiant Minds is about making meditation fun, about making it interesting. But like I said, it's great for beginners, but it is amazing. I meditated for 25 years, and this group on Tuesdays, 11:30 to 12, is the most interesting meditation group I've ever been in. It's not because I facilitate it. It is seriously cool. So if you're an experienced meditator, not only will you have something to share, you're going to have a different perspective than others, but I would love to see you there. So sorry I keep saying it. I know people pop in and out of the stream, but Tuesdays, Radiant Minds, meditation, 11:30 to 12, date Kettering, Ohio. The address is 1563 East Dorothy Lane, Suite 300B. That's the third floor of the building. There's an elevator that sometimes doesn't work, or there are stairs. You'll come through the doors and you'll just see our office off to the left. There's going to be shoes laid out by the door. You can't miss it. 1563 East Dorothy Lane. You'll Suite 300B, Kettering 45429. You will find that linked in my bio. If you're on Instagram or Facebook, if you're on YouTube, I think you can go to my website and then go to the bottom of the page, potentially. I can't remember off the top of my head, but you'll find it. You'll find that there's also a calendar on my website. The calendar on my website includes everything I'm talking about on this stream. So Tuesday, Radiant Minds meditation, and silent meditation is from 12 to 12:20. Now I want to talk about Sundays. Sundays were the thing, the only thing for for a long time, for a year and a half. We've been doing Sundays for over a year and a half now. Not every Sunday. There's some Sundays where we're not in town, but Sunday gathering, man, where Tuesdays are interesting and fun. Sundays are too, but Sundays are fellowship. Sundays are a phenomenal experience. I'm just going to say it. If you're somebody like me who has kind of felt out of place, and yeah, I've had friends all my life, but if you're somebody who's felt like you're out of place, like you don't fit in, you're probably going to feel at home here. I think most of us were in that place. I think most of us have spent our lives, the people that come on Sundays, I think most of us have spent our lives feeling like we didn't fit in. And the cool thing about Sundays is we're not all alike. We're all totally different, except maybe our sense of not fitting in for most of our lives. But the cool thing is everybody is so open, non-judgmental, that it works. It absolutely works. Somebody who Sunday gathering wouldn't work for. Sunday gathering starts at 9:30, by the way, and kind of goes till about noon. But there's 3 events, and I'll talk about it in a minute. Sunday gathering it's about the fellowship, though the events that we host on Sundays. I mean, there's some serious stuff that happens, some amazing stuff, but it's really about the fellowship for me, and I think for a lot of the people that show up. I'll talk about what we do at Sunday gathering in a moment, but for the first time on social media, on YouTube, I'm going to talk about how Sunday gathering came about. It's kind of juicy, frankly. Yeah, you'll see why in a second. So Sunday gathering, I started teaching yoga at a studio, went through yoga teacher training. Man, at that time, life was a huge struggle, suffered from severe anxiety, depression, daily panic attacks. Man, yoga teacher training was brutal. The training itself was great. I absolutely thought it was fantastic, but I was more depressed than maybe I've ever been in my life during yoga teacher training. One time, I think it was probably a Saturday, if I remember correctly. I had to leave early. I couldn't be there anymore. I was trying to just make it minute by minute and get through yoga teacher training. Super interesting, but I was so depressed that I couldn't function. So I left. And anyway, I left for the day, but I finished yoga teacher training, started teaching at that studio. Then I discovered retro session, which this stream is not about. Retro session is this process that I used on myself, first of all, and then eventually started helping others with. Absolutely cleared up my anxiety, my daily panic attacks, my depression. When I say cleared it up, I'm not kidding. It's been now, 3.5, 4 years. It has not returned. It has not returned. It has not returned. No joke. This isn't like I feel better for a couple weeks and then feel crappy again, which is most of my life, frankly. This is years of no depression, anxiety, or panic attacks. But that's so I go through that, and this spiritual awakening is happening because I've been anxious since I was 7. For me, I was an atheist for all my life. As a child, I remember being an atheist. I won't tell all the stories, but I was an atheist from childhood. Once I healed and like really healed, the anxiety left, the depression left. Then I started to have a sense, oh, wait, maybe this isn't it. The healing was essential first, which could be controversial for people that are religious, but healing came first. In my atheism, I found healing. So I'm teaching yoga at that time. Yeah, as I'm working through the process, as I'm clearing up all the stuff that caused my anxiety, my depression, my panic attacks, as I heal that, start to have this sense of something greater. and then had an incredible spiritual awakening. So it was a process, but there was a moment, again, not the subject of the stream, but I had a spiritual awakening, a big spiritual awakening, as in went from being an atheist of 40, whatever, 3-4 years, whatever it was, to not learning about God. Let's call it the divine. Not learning about the divine, not hearing about the divine, not experiencing the divine, but really being there. That doesn't do it justice. As I hear the words, it sounds empty and hollow. Doesn't do justice to that experience. It was ego death, essentially. It was ego death. And I came out of that experience. So I had healed everything. I was doing well. I was like, man, this is a life. This is heaven. Like I could die right now. I thought I had no depression, no anxiety. Then this spiritual awakening happens. And I'm like, oh, I'm not supposed to just have a really good life and just do my thing, go to my job. Oh, there's something more. Okay. And right after this happened, I go to teach a yoga class. So by this time, I'm teaching multiple regular yoga classes. At that time, I had taught maybe 400 yoga classes during the healing process. During my healing journey, I was teaching classes. And my last class at this studio was right after this spiritual awakening, and something came out of me, something beautiful. I essentially got out of the way. I'd been a little nervous teaching yoga, and I had to think a lot as I was teaching. This time, I just opened my mouth and the words came out. And my experience may be different than the people in the room, but to me, it was a very organic, not a very studio yoga class, frankly. Studio yoga in the US is frankly exercise class with a smattering of Eastern spirituality thrown in. This wasn't that. And that was the way I taught to that point. This was something else. And I cried at the end of class. I wept. It was like the real me had shown itself for the first time. So of course I wept. Well, that wasn't what people signed up for, and I acknowledge that, and I got fired. That was my last my last class. I taught from my heart, and I got fired immediately. Well, it took about a week, but I got fired. I was told not to teach any classes. A week later, I come into the studio, and I get fired. But you know what? When she told me we were done, she asked if I had anything to say, and I'm like, "No. Thank you so much for everything." I was so grateful because I did my yoga teacher training there. And then I got fired and I had taught from my heart, and I like, how could I be angry? How could I be pissed about getting fired? I had taught from my heart for the first time, and it was kind of weird. It wasn't an exercise class with a smattering of spirituality, of Eastern spirituality thrown into it. And I don't say that as an insult. Freaking studio yoga saved my life or kept me alive before the healing process started. But that's not what this was. And I understand why she fired me. She did the right thing by firing me from the studio. But then I left and I'm like, well, I understand why she fired me. Cool. I smiled as I walked out, but then I'm like, wait, I just taught from my heart for the first time. And now I don't have a studio to work for. That was the irony of it. When I got fired from that studio, I teach from my heart. I get fired because the class is freaking nuts and weird. And then I'm like, I don't have a place to teach, but I might even be able to show it. So my landlord, Jim Rosenthal, he runs 10 Bears Martial Arts. I'll actually turn it. So that's 10 Bears Martial Arts back. Oh, I can't do this. It's backwards in the camera. That's 10 Bears Martial Arts. It looks like a garage, but when you go inside, it's a martial arts studio. And I recognize, oh, wait, I have 10 Bears in my backyard. And it's kind of cool because it has padded floors. It's a martial arts studio. And it was a little, it wasn't as nice as it is now when we started doing total surrender yoga there. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to do this on my own. And if people show up, cool. I think I came up with the name Total Surrender Yoga before that first Sunday. And I had no idea if people are going to show up. We had friends that I thought might show up, but people showed up. I started by teaching a 9 a.m. yoga and then 10:30 total surrender yoga. 9 a.m. I won't even worry about that. But but 10:30 Total Surrender Yoga. And Total Surrender Yoga is kind of the centerpiece of our Sunday gathering. And to describe it, I would say that it's all the things that I got fired for in my last class that I taught at that yoga studio. It's all the things I got fired for and none of the stuff I didn't. So Warrior 2, that I didn't get fired for that. So Frank, that's not, I don't ever cue Warrior 2. I don't cue Crescent Lunge. Didn't get fired for that. I don't cue any of that stuff. I love Yoga Asana. I teach it and I love teaching it, but Total Surrender Yoga is not that. Now's the hard part. So I'll talk about Total Surrender Yoga. That's kind of the middle of our Sundays, 10:30 a.m. every Sunday, 10 Bears Martial Arts. We do cancel every once in a while, but most Sundays we're there. 10:30 centerpiece, Total Surrender Yoga. It's all the stuff. I'll just repeat it because people come in and out of these streams. It's all the things that got me fired from the studio that I worked at and taught yoga at, and none of the things I didn't get fired for. So, man, when I look back at the class that got me fired from the yoga studio, yeah, I'm just gonna say it. I've really resolved to just speak openly. The owner of that studio asked me if I might be bipolar. I think it was the level of emotion I displayed during that class. I'm not bipolar. Before I taught that class, my last therapist dismissed me from therapy. He said, "You're good. Call me if you need anything." I asked her if I was bipolar prior to the healing starting, and she said no. I was diagnosed as CPTSD, and I'm definitely not suffering from that anymore. But anyway, I I was asked if I was bipolar after that class that got me fired. And when I think about what we do on Sundays, it's not that wild, but it's not studio yoga. And man, if I appeared to have like emotional highs and lows because of that last class, man, what we do on Sundays is a little different than that. But it's not, it is an arc. It is an emotional arc, like every good yoga class. But the cues I give are not cues like go Warrior 2, Crescent Lunge. It's none of that. It is more, and this is where it's hard because I'm kind of going around in circles now because every week Total Surrender Yoga is totally different. And I'm going to have to freaking charge my battery and I'm going to have to run and get the cord. Dang it. I'm going to go do that because this thing's about to die. If you're on the stream, I'm going to keep talking about Total Surrender Yoga, but I didn't recognize that my battery's about dead. I'm going to have to run inside real quick and grab it. I know where the cord is. It's going to take me about 30 to 40 seconds. I'll be right back. I'm back. Just going to plug this computer in. Shoot, I don't know if I have an extension cord. I'll unplug the cold plunge. I'll talk about that in a minute, the cold plunge. I'm going to have to grab the extension cord from behind the cold plunge. One sec. All right. I'll just recap real quick what I was talking about before I had to go get the cord from my computer. All right. Okay, so just quickly, I got fired from the yoga studio I was working for. I taught from my heart for the first time, got me fired. No warning, got fired. Totally justified. I absolutely agree with the studio owner's decision. Total Surrender Yoga, Sundays, the centerpiece of our Sunday gathering. So, like I said, I don't give asana cues, no warrior two, crescent lunge, none of that. But the hard part is it's never the same. Sometimes it's really active and we move a lot. Sometimes we move barely at all. I do try to get us moving every time. But Total Surrender Yoga is a moving meditation, but that's not quite right because sometimes we're still. Total Surrender Yoga is a movement meditation experience. I guess that's the only way I could put it. It's a movement meditation experience. I just don't have a elevator pitch for Total Surrender Yoga. It is an experience. It's not a class. I don't lead it. I facilitate an yoga experience. So yoga, just to take a little bit, there's no Sanskrit in it, none of that. I don't give poses, like I said, but it's called yoga because the word yoga means union. And I see Total Surrender Yoga as a process for breaking down what keeps us separate from others, separate from the divine, separate from the world around us. It is a process of noticing the things that are keeping us stuck. And that is just, they feel like empty words to me, but Total Surrender Yoga, you can't describe it. So any words I use are going to feel kind of empty. But I'll give an example of some of the cues I might give in a Total Surrender Yoga. So centerpiece of our Sunday gathering, I see some people left and came in. So talking about Sunday gathering, if you've never heard of it, I'll recap real quick. But Sunday gathering, the centerpiece, there's a siren. We live by the fire station. Is Total Surrender Yoga. And as an example of a cue I might give, sometimes I give emotional cues. So I could say something like, take a pose that feels like strength to you. And I'll give some little backdrop. Most people have their eyes closed throughout Total Surrender Yoga. Unless we're up and moving around, people's eyes are going to be closed most of the time. So we're not watching each other. We're there, we're holding space for each other, but we're not watching each other. And so I'll give a cue like, take a position that feels like strength to you. And for me, maybe that's like arms big, legs out big, or maybe it's standing, feet about hips width, hands at hips. It could be anything. It could be fists up. I don't know. But everyone's going to take that pose. And maybe I'll say something like, okay, move through that. Where does that emotion, let's just say strength, where does that move your body? What does movement and strength feel like? And then we'll go from there. So that's kind of what'll happen sometimes. So I'll give emotional cues in Total Surrender Yoga. Sometimes Total Surrender Yoga is an energetic experience. We might, and we do this often, we might imagine energy building up in the ground, and maybe we'll fold forward. And I don't call it a forward fold, but we'll bring our hands to the ground. And then we imagine pulling that energy up through the body and comes out the top of the head and the fingers. And then we're bringing that energy up through the body. And then I'll say something like, feel the energy rising up. It's like water rising up into the hips, rising up to the shoulders. Now we're immersed in it. And so kind of energetic cues, emotional cues. Maybe we'll circumambulate the room and notice the feeling of energy that we've all pulled in. Now we're walking around the room. It's difficult to describe Total Surrender Yoga. I can say what it's not. Like I've already said, it's not studio yoga. It's not exercise. Sometimes some people, you'll get a heart rate up, but it's not an exercise class. It's not a class at all. It's an experience, a yoga experience. So I give those emotional cues. I'll give energetic cues. Sometimes we move in unison, like I said, in circles. We put a bunch of pillows in the middle of the room once, and people kind of lay down with their heads toward the middle. It's always different. And coming up soon, Alia, my wife, you probably know her if you know me, She's going to do the sound bath component of Total Surrender Yoga. She's going to do a sound bath while I do the guided part of it. We've done it before. It is so much fun. That's going to come up in the next probably like 3 weeks from now, maybe a month. I want to be able to put that out there more. I think people are going to be interested in the sound bath part. Alia does an amazing job with her sound baths. So look for that on social media. I promise, I'm terrible at social media, but I promise I will post about Sunday Gathering when Alia is going to do the sound bath. I promise. Look for it. I'll be very clear in that post, and I'm sure we'll do a reel or something. Ollie and I will. So that's Total Surrender Yoga. I know I really didn't describe it very well. There's not a way to describe it. It is always, always, always different. And part of what I love about it is I don't know what it's going to be until it happens. So Sunday Gathering, Sundays, starts at 9:30 now. 10:30 is Total Surrender Yoga, which I just described. If you just came in and saw some people come in, you can go back to this video. It'll be posted on Instagram, on YouTube. I don't know I've never done X. This is the first time I don't even know if it's streaming there, frankly. Facebook will probably have a recap of it. So that's 10:30. It's right in the middle of our Sunday Gathering. But I'm really excited to talk about 9:30. Right now, working title is Free Flow. Used to do gentle yoga at 9 a.m. on Sundays. No more. Now we meet at 9:30. And if this is something that appeals to you, it's the right place for you. If this is something that sounds totally out there and sounds absolutely uninteresting, I understand. And that makes a lot of sense because it's even hard for me to kind of comprehend what we do at 9:30, not because it's weird, but not because it's like strange, but well, I'll tell you what it is. We literally come in, I put on some ambient music, and then we don't do anything for 45 minutes. So 9:30 to 10:15 on Sundays, Free Flow. We literally come in, and I think sometimes some of us sit for a little while and then lie down on the ground. It's a martial arts studio, so the floor is padded. But Free Flow is just that. We mostly just lay on the floor, ambient music playing. It's not meditation in the sense of any meditation class I have ever taken in my life. There's no object of meditation. There's no instructions. But I'll tell you what I do and what I've heard other people do. I essentially come in a way, it's almost anti-meditation, because with meditation, maybe the instruction is focus on the breath or count the breath, or if you're doing visualization, maybe you're visualizing a scene. There's all these different kinds of meditation, but there's usually an object of meditation. So we have that object, we focus the mind on it. Sundays, 9:30 at 10 Bears Martial Arts, Free Flow is not that. It's the opposite of that. It's letting the mind go. It's the opposite of the instruction that I've heard in every meditation class I ever took, every book I ever read. It's the opposite. Just let go. If there's an instruction, the instruction is let go, but don't grasp anything, because the mind wants to grab stuff and it gets pulled in, and it seems to be pretty effective if we just relax into it and allow it to come up, and we're not actively cogitating on something. In other words, the wheels aren't spinning. There's a lot happening. It's almost like dreaming in a way, at least for me and a couple of other people I've talked to. So from 9:30 to 10:15, we just lay there on the floor and have ambient music playing. I can't give anybody else's description, but what usually happens for me is I'll lay there. And honestly, I'm the one that came up with this thing, but sometimes I'm laying there and I'm like, what am I doing? Nothing's going to happen. Oh, and so I start immediately thinking, oh, nothing's going to happen. And then something pops up. A couple weeks ago, a sensation popped up I think it was the right side of my chest. I can't remember. And I didn't try to focus on it or think about it, but I'm like, oh, that's interesting. What's that? And then I'm just sitting with it, and then something came up and I got a sense of what it was, and it felt like some stuck emotion. I just sat there and I'm not thinking about it, but it's just kind of happening. And then I started to have some memories that were associated with the sensation of my body. And I think I cried that week. I cried. And then I kind of came out the other side and released it and started laughing. And then I just lay there the rest of the time. So honestly, free flow is just that. It's an opportunity for you to do whatever comes up. And you certainly could do silent meditation during Sundays, 9:30 to 10:15 free flow. You could just do silent meditation. I don't think anybody there does, as far as I know. We just lay there and just see what happens. And it is powerful. It might sound weird, but I can't explain to you how powerful Sundays are. And the cool thing is, when we do it every week, we get accustomed to the time and the day. And so we come in at 9:30, and Mike and I were there. We were talking today, and eventually a couple other people showed up. But we're talking about jujitsu because we're in a jujitsu school. We're talking about wrestling, jujitsu, just great back and forth. He's a wrestler. I do jujitsu, and then he gets quiet. I get quiet. We're both sitting up. We close our eyes. We just stay silent. It was about a little after 9:30. I didn't announce it was starting. It was just the two of us, and a couple people came in late. And this is after, I don't know, 5 weeks of doing this. I'm sitting up, and then how am I going to, I guess I'm just going to say it. It was like the Spirit of God came over me, the divine. This isn't like, oh, I feel funny. This is my consciousness was absorbed in something, and I just kind of bowed, like, okay, I did not expect that. So this is literally the two of us talking, and as soon as I close my eyes, that rolling golden honey like love rolled over me, and I just went down. This is this morning, and I think it's because we're doing this every Sunday, and you build up that practice, if you will. It's the environment. It's the music. It's the people that are coming. It is a holy, holy time, whatever that means to you. I'm not telling anybody what to do. I'm not telling them what it is. I'm telling you, Sundays at 9:30, free flow. It is a holy, holy time for me. And I think, not speaking for others, but from what they've said, it's a holy time for others. And it's unlike anything else because there are no instructions except we're not going to talk to each other. You can emote, you can get up if you need to shake things off, do whatever you need to do, but we're not communicating with each other. That's the only instruction. 45 minutes of no communication. I guess that's the best way to put it. But the intention of coming there and doing it every week has supercharged it. It is incredible, incredible, incredible. If this is something that appeals to you, this concept of doing nothing or coming in with no intention for 45 minutes, but knowing we're going to be quiet, if that kind of makes sense to you, or if it doesn't make sense, but you're curious, join us Sundays, 9:30, 10 Bears Martial Arts. You're going to have to go to the link in bio, or if you're on YouTube, I think the description might, if you go to my page on YouTube, go and click my name, Retro Session Works on YouTube. And I think there's a link to my website. That should have directions, but also just feel free to DM me. If anything I'm talking about today, if you're interested in attending Tuesdays, Radiant Minds, 11:30 to 12, silent meditation, 12 to 12:20 at my office. I'm not going to give the address again right now, but feel free to DM if you need the address, want to know more. It's an amazing group. I think Tuesdays are my favorite. Second favorite thing, Sundays, 9:30. So Sunday gathering is 3 components. First part, 9:30 to 10:15, laying on a padded martial arts floor with no intention or instructions. Amazing. That is 10 Bears Martial Arts, 9:30 to 10:15. I already talked about Total Surrender Yoga, 10:30 to roughly 11:30. And finally, on Sundays, all of these are optional, obviously. About half of us, depending, but mostly about half of us, we cold plunge. That comes between 11:30 and 11:45 or 12. It really just depends who's there. Cold plunging, man, this is a whole other topic. Cold plunging. So I'm looking at the freezer right now, and I'm going to turn this. I do need to be cognizant of this mic, so I'm going to turn the computer and stay by the mic. 1 second. So you won't be able to hear me. I'm going to go open it, and maybe I'll even move the computer over there. But this mic, it won't pick me up when I walk over there. So I'm going to go open the freezer. This is a freezer full of water. It's not plugged in right now. It's about 40 degrees. All right. The mic is attached, so I'm just going to have to lift. I'm not going to be able to do it. I don't really want to detach the mic. I don't know if it's going to cause any problems. There's a towel, my towel from earlier. But it is a freezer filled with water. I'm going to go sit. Lately, the water in the cold plunge has been about 40 degrees, usually right on the nose, 40 degrees. It's another one of those things, like, if you feel drawn to it, I encourage you to try it. If you think it's the stupidest thing you've ever heard, absolutely understand. You're not going to get any judgment. And if you want to come to Sundays and you want to do free flow at 9:30 and or total surrender yoga at 10:30 and don't want to have anything to do with the cold plunge, I'll admit I do the cold plunge, but it is entertaining watching people do it. Everybody experiences it differently. Everybody emotes differently. One person whose name I won't mention, this only happened once, but last year screamed bloody murder because the water at that time might have been in the 30s. And the neighbor, I talked to him one day and he said, yeah, that one time on Sunday, I heard somebody scream like they were being killed. That happened one time. It doesn't usually happen. Most people are pretty serene when they get in the cold water. It's another one of those things where I'm going to describe my experience, but I'll tell you, everybody's experience in the cold plunge is totally different. No two people have the same experience. But kind of like what I said about Tuesdays, and I don't think anybody that's here right now heard that part of the early part of the live, but our Tuesday meditation, everybody's experience is different, but I identify with it, what everybody says. I also said something else earlier that I think the person that's in now may not have heard. Maybe they did. The cool thing about cold plunge, the cool thing about total surrender yoga, the cool thing about free flow, radiant minds, all these things we do every week, is that everybody's experience is different, but everybody wants to hear about your experience genuinely. It's not like, oh, I should listen because that's the thing I should do, and they listen to me. No. All of us want to hear what you have to say. We want to hear about each other's experiences. Some people will say, it didn't work for me, but here's what happened. Like, no judgment whatsoever. And that is the amazing thing about total surrender yoga, especially. It's also the amazing thing about the cold plunge is there's not going to be any judgment. If you get in that water in that freezer and you get right out, I've cold plunged, I don't even know, like 75 times, 50 times. I have no idea. I understand why you got out, and I am not judging you. Nobody's going to judge you if you get in the water. Nobody's going to judge you if you don't do it. How dumb is that? We get in water in this freezer on my back porch that's like 40 degrees at best, 40 degrees. It's wild. But if you have an interest, I can't talk about the physical benefits. Frankly, I don't care about the physical benefits. I know there are some. Just Google it. You'll find out. I guess my understanding, I guess the one thing I'll say is it seems to lower inflammation, systemic inflammation in the body, but I'm not going to say more than that because it's just not why I do it. So I'll talk a little bit about why I cold plunge and what the experience is like for me. Cold plunging is a spiritual experience, I guess. It's always slightly different, though. If I do it consistently, it's kind of like there's a theme, a running theme with cold plunging for me. And I won't go into that too much, but for me, I'll just put it bluntly. If there's like a general experience of cold plunging, I am cold plunging to prepare myself for the moment of death. And I hope this doesn't scare people off. This is just me. No, I've never heard anybody else that says this or does this that comes on Sundays. For me, it's preparation for the moment of death. I want to be aware and I want to experience those final moments. And to me, if I can get in that cold water and I can just sit, calm the mind, that's really kind of the purpose for why I initially was really into it. I guess it's a little different now because I kind of got through that. Now, frankly, I cold plunge for the what happens about 20 seconds into it. So the water's cold. I sit all the way down. It goes up to my shoulders, about 40 degrees, like I said. And the mind is like, get out. This is terrible. You could die. This is so cold. And then at that 20 or 30-second mark, everything just goes still. Nervous system, everything around me, birds are chirping, but it is total stillness. So, and I'm pretty calm, but this is a level of stillness that I can't describe. Once that hits, there was this period of time, and it doesn't seem to happen anymore because it's spontaneous. I don't try to do this, but for a little while, I think it was about a week, I'd get into the cold plunge. I'd be like, fighting it. And then suddenly I would just say, thank you, God, thank you, God, thank you, God, thank you, God. And it just would spontaneously come out of me. It's giving me chills talking about it, but that stillness, it says it in the Bible, and I do not identify as a Christian, but I know the Bible well, and I think Jesus is phenomenal. But be still and know that I am God. Man, wise words. And the cold plunge, man, it takes me to that still place. And once all that craziness of the nervous system, of the noise of people walking around, and I'm not saying it's bad stuff. I'm not disturbed. I'm not like anxious when I get in, but I don't realize how stimulated I am till I get in that cold plunge, 20, 30 seconds in, be still and know that I'm a God, man. Everything. It's like the pond has waves. Maybe you throw a rock in the middle of a pond, the waves start to spread out. And then if there's no wind, glassy stillness. That's body, mind, emotions, the space around me. My consciousness is just stillness. And now when I cold plunge, that is the reason I do it. I used cold plunging for a long time. It brought up stuff that was kind of down in the depths, and it pulled it out to the surface so I could work through it. That doesn't happen anymore. Now I just know if I can make it through 20, 30 seconds, everything is just going to be so still and beautiful. Other people, I'll just give my understanding of other people's experiences. Other people do it because it's hard. Some people do it and they want to do something hard. Their life's easy and they're like, I want to do something hard. Other people do it because they believe in the physical benefits. Some people say that it helps with anxiety. I can see why it would. Some people say it helps with their depression. I don't know. I'm not going to say it does. Cold plunging is different for everyone. Like I said, for me, man, it's that stillness. It's almost like unplugging a computer and plugging it back in when it's running slow. I feel like it does something to my nervous system, resets it. For a while, I was doing it every single day. I think it was like 3 weeks, a month, maybe even longer, doing it every single day. And oh man, I looked forward to it. Now we went out of town and I didn't do it for a little bit. It's way harder to do if you haven't done it for a couple of weeks. So, all right, I'm going to recap, and I need to, I'm going to recap, and I'm going to recap in a way that I can go back and take these clips so I can put it up as reels and shorts on TikTok and Instagram, Facebook. So I'm going to go through each of the things that we host every week. When I say we, I generally mean my wife and I, Alia and me. Okay, so Tuesdays, Radiant Minds. It is my favorite meditation group I have ever been to. And no, it's not because I don't lead it. I'm just facilitating the process. Radiant Minds, Tuesdays, 11:30 to 12, is an experiment in consciousness. It's not stuffy. There's no rules. People lie down, people sit up. It's not an exercise. Radiant Minds is an experiment, and it is fun. I absolutely love being there. Radiant Minds Tuesday, 11:30 to 12. Then, optionally, some people leave, but 12 to 12:20, we have silent meditation. Radiant Minds is appropriate for people who have been meditating for 25 years. you will have an interesting experience hearing everybody else in the room talk about their experience of consciousness. But if you're a beginner, the prompts that I give at Radiant Minds will help you learn to meditate. So it fills multiple roles. The cool thing about Radiant Minds is those who want to will discuss their experience while we're meditating. It is so cool. You're in that meditative state and you kind of get this like movement through the room of ideas and not ideas so much, but experience. It's so juicy. I absolutely love it. Tuesdays, 11:30 to 12 at my office, 1563 East Dorothy Lane, Suite 300B, 45429, link in bio. Wherever you are, you'll find it. Just dig around a little bit. That's Tuesdays. Sundays, we have Sunday Gathering. Sunday Gathering has 3 parts. At 9:30, we have Free Flow. Believe it or not, Free Flow, my second favorite thing of the week, is literally no instructions. There's nothing that you're supposed to do. The only kind of rule is we don't talk to each other. We come in, there's ambient music on. It's a martial arts studio, so the floor is padded. We lay down or sit and don't do anything. We're not meditating. We're just letting the mind go. We're just feeling what we feel. We're experiencing what we experience. Maybe you could call it meditation, but to me, it's kind of anti-meditation. We are doing nothing with no instructions for 45 minutes. Believe me, it's awesome the first time I did it, but every week I do it, I get more and more kind of conditioned to come in and stuff happens, man. Massive change, deep realizations without any effort on my part. So that's Free Flow, 9:30 to 10:15. The centerpiece of Sunday Gathering is 10:30, Total Surrender Yoga. How do I describe it? It is a moving and still meditation. It is not your studio yoga class. It is not an exercise class. You never have had to have taken a yoga class to get something out of Total Surrender Yoga. Total Surrender Yoga is an opportunity to go deep. Most people's eyes are closed. It's an opportunity sometimes to be a kid again. It's an opportunity to bring up good memories from childhood. It's an opportunity to experience what it's like to be in this freaking amazing body, to be a human being, to be out of a body. It's an opportunity to experience everything consciousness has to offer through movement, through stillness, through guided meditation. So that's 10:30 to about 11:30. Then, but sometime between 11:30 and 12, we cold plunge. Now, all this is optional. You can come to one part, all the parts. You can stay for the cold plunge, not cold plunge. You can get in the water, get out. But the cold plunge, for those who do it, is incredible. For me, it is a life-changing experience every time I do it. But know that if you don't feel like cold plunging, you can bring your bathing suit. You may not use it, but know that it's a lot of fun. The fellowship after Total Surrender Yoga, the fellowship around this freezer that's filled with water on my back porch is amazing. I and many of the people that come to Sunday Gathering and Tuesday, Radiant Minds, are people who kind of felt like they're on the outside. I think all of us had friends throughout life, or most of us, but we always felt like we were kind of on the outside. But when we come together, there's no judgment. Nobody is judging. Everybody recognizes that our experience is different. We're not uniform at all. Every one of us is totally different, whether there's 4 of us like today or 17 of us, which is what we've had before. Everybody is different, and everybody is interested in everybody else and what they have to say. It is an incredible fellowship. I have never experienced anything like it myself. I didn't create the group because I felt like an outsider and wanted to find my people, but you know what? My people have come in, and I cannot recommend highly enough Sunday Gathering, Total Surrender Yoga, 10:30, cold plunge at between 11:30 to 11:45. Oh, and I almost forgot 9:30 Free Flow. check out the link in bio. If you're on YouTube, it's going to be, I think, a link to my website. It's going to be a little harder to find. Feel free to click the chat box there. Go to my social media, which is linked on the website. Or if you're on social media, feel free to DM me. I really mean it. I'll respond. Ask any questions. If you need help finding directions in Dayton, Ohio, we are off of Wayne Avenue. The Total Surrender Yoga Sunday Gathering is in 10 Bears Martial Arts, right back there. Looks like a garage from here. It is a detached garage, but once you go inside, you'll see it's much bigger than it looks from out here, and padded floors. It looks like a martial arts studio. It doesn't just look like an empty garage, I promise. I don't know the address of that off the top of my head. You'll have to check the website. But Tuesdays, Radiant Minds, best meditation group ever, is at 1563 East Dorothy Lane, Suite 300B, 45429, Dayton, Ohio. Feel free to reach out. I would love to see you there. It is an amazing experience every single time. I learned something. I mean, today was just 4 of us. I haven't been putting on social media, which is why I'm motivated to come on like this. 4 of us were there, but you know what? All 3 of those people that were there with me, I had to say it at the end. I said, thank you so much for being here. You are truly my teachers. Every single I took notes, which I've never done before after Total Surrender Yoga, because I learned something from everybody who was there. Life-changing stuff. But you know what? It's not like a high-pressure environment. Nobody expects you to be brilliant. I'm sure none of us were trying to inspire each other today, but it happened because it is such an open environment. The best in me comes out. And the best in me comes out because I get out of the way. I just let it come out. I'm not censoring myself. Have you ever felt like that? Have you felt like you had to hold back the best of you because people wouldn't understand? The Bible talks about pearls before swine. If you get that, if you feel like I have friends, but I got to hold back, and maybe I have 3 groups of friends and each group gets a different piece of me. If you want to be your whole self, or you want to experiment with being your whole self in front of a group of people, I cannot recommend enough coming on either Tuesdays or Sundays to one of these gatherings. It's going to be different people at each. I mean, there's some of the common people, but there's different people. Just experiment. You can just be quiet. You don't have, and there's no pressure. You don't even have to say a word. Watch what happens. Find out how amazing these people are. These people are incredible, non-judgmental. They want to hear what you have to say. They're going to be saying interesting stuff. You're not going to be bored. I promise. I would love to see you there. Like I said, feel free to reach out. Social media, direct message. I think that you can get my email off of the website. Reach out any way you can. I'll answer any questions, give you directions. Oh, the most important thing, it's all free. I don't charge for any of it. We do take donations, but it's not why we're doing it. I honestly do this on Tuesdays, Radiant Minds, Tuesdays, 11:30 to 12, Sunday Gathering, 9:30, Free Flow, 10:30, Total Surrender Yoga, Cold Plunge, sometime after Total Surrender Yoga. We don't charge for any of it. And I considered ending Sundays, but then I realized, no, I'm doing it for myself. So why wouldn't I do it? Yeah, no, I don't really post on social media about it, which is probably going to change here, but I'm going to show up because it's freaking amazing. Why wouldn't I? Well, now's the time to be out here doing lives like this, talking about the experience, because man, it is powerful. So if you're interested, let me know. Feel free to reach out with any questions. If you know somebody who's been to Total Surrender Yoga, ask them. You will not regret coming. Well, I hope you won't regret coming, but just know it's in a different experience. It is not studio yoga. You may be challenged, not because someone's going to directly challenge you, because you're going to challenge yourself. Are you open to a little bit of a challenge? Are you open to something totally different? And I can say that with total confidence. If you've been to every yoga studio in this country, in the world, you will not experience something like Total Surrender Yoga. And I don't think you're going to experience something like Radiant Minds on Tuesdays either. And it's not because it's special. It's just a different, unique way of approaching it. And I would love for you to experience it with us. I think the live is limited to an hour. I'm coming up on an hour now, so I'm going to sign off. Feel free to reach out. I'd love to talk to you. I will see you soon.